What's up guys, Midnight Strike here, welcoming you back to your weekly verses. Now, at this point, this episode is pretty much a given, to be expected, something I have to do. PlayStation 2 versus Xbox One. Not Xbox One, Xbox numero uno. Xbox original, basically. It's getting really confusing. Do we call it Xbox One, do we call it Xbox original, or just plain Xbox? But then people will think we're talking about 360, so you never know, basically. I'm just gonna call it, for the sake of this episode, Xbox OG. I don't know how to make a G with my two hands, but then again, it doesn't matter. It matters not, because I have done PlayStation 1 versus 64, PlayStation 3 versus Xbox 360, and PlayStation 4 versus Xbox One. So, it's pretty much a given that I do this episode at this point to finish off the generations past PlayStation 1. So, here we go. Basically, in every single one of those other episodes, I chose the Sony side, but that's not because I'm a fanboy. I actually do recognize a lot of great things with the 360 and 64 in particular, but with the Xbox One, I might actually redo that episode with the PlayStation 4 versus the Xbox One just to see what everyone kind of thinks, because I did that episode jumping the gun before any of the systems were released, because they were just announced and unveiled. I believe, no, I didn't even have the controller for it, but the games were looking really kick-ass. So, to get into it though, this is the PlayStation 2 versus the Xbox original, so for the sake of this episode, I will steer clear of mentioning any of the other systems. So, as I have already mentioned in my 2013 Top 20 PlayStation 2 video games, my favorite system of all time is the PlayStation 2, so it should be coming as no surprise as usual with these kind of verses. I will choose the Sony side. So that's not because it's Sony, that's not because it's PlayStation, that's because I grew up with the PlayStation 2. It was my first video game system when I was 12 years old, other than like the little portable handhelds and the NES. It was my first modern day, new technological state-of-the-art video game system that was out at the time. So I really enjoyed it. I got it when I was 12 in 2004, right around kind of the end of an era, per se. So the 360 was going to be released in about 6 or 7 months. So by the time I got the PlayStation 2, it had already been out and already had a lot of kick-ass games for it. I remember my first game being Mega Man X Command Mission, Sonic Mega Collection Plus, Crash Twinsanity, and ATV2, or ATV Off-Road Fury 2 if you want to have the full title for looking things up for the sake of getting good games. All 4 of those games got at the same time, really awesome, and I have all 4 of them to this day, and enjoy the shit out of them. So, on the Xbox side though, while I've never owned an original Xbox, I used to go over to one of my friends at the time to play Xbox, and some games are actually a little bit better, or at least control a little bit better on the Xbox as opposed to the PlayStation 2. There are a few added in details. The Xbox actually has a lot more powerful engine, or a lot more powerful of an engine that it runs, and it can actually produce more powerful graphics. It's a little bit more advanced, and, you know, as it was made by the people who make PC games, Microsoft, it was their first entry into the video game market, and it had such blockbuster hits as Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, and Fable. So, the other ones, such as Gears of War, wouldn't come until the 360 era of gaming, but then again, I digress. The Xbox original was complete and utter success. So, a lot of the hardcore gamers went over to it because it actually has superior online, because back in those days you had to hook up a router, you had to run a cord and everything, and a dial-up connection, and it was just a pain to go online. I personally never did it because all I had was dial-up, and it wasn't fast at all. So with the Xbox original, I believe that they had a little adapter or something where you could plug it in for wireless internet. I'm not exactly sure, but I know Xbox Live was released in early to mid 2004 for the first time with Halo 2, and that was one of the first games that had Xbox Live. And man, it was a start of a new era of online gaming that continued the trend that the Dreamcast started. The Sega Dreamcast was the first online system, and Xbox perfected it practically. I mean, without the original Xbox, we probably wouldn't have PSN. We probably wouldn't have the new technological advancements that we know as staples, like, you know, Call of Duty, servers, stuff like that. I mean, we wouldn't have the online gaming community that we have right now without the original Xbox. So I do actually recognize a lot of what the original Xbox has achieved, a lot of what they have perfected, per se, but I would still have to go with the PlayStation 2, because while the original Xbox had state-of-the-art graphics, a little bit better graphics, better resolution, and a better online community, you could still go online with the PlayStation 2. Some of the games are a lot more fun on the PlayStation 2, and it has a lot more exclusives. And the PlayStation brand has just been been around for a lot longer, so it's had more of a chance to what am I looking for? More of a chance to kind of pick up the pace a little bit in terms of exclusives. It's had a longer time. It's had a longer run as opposed to the original Xbox, which came out in, I believe, 2001, while the PlayStation 2 came out shortly after the Dreamcast in March 4th, 2000, and practically ran Sega into the ground. Now, this is partially where I have a little bit of beef with the PlayStation 2 brand, or Sony at this point, is because they ran one of my favorite companies into the ground, Sega. Oh my god, they came out with some really kick-ass shit on the Sega Dreamcast, but piracy and everything else killed it in 2001. They discontinued it shortly after they even released it. I mean, they released it in 1998 in Japan, 1999 in the United States of America. I almost said the UK, but the United States of America. And shortly after, 2 years later, or 3 years later if you're Japanese, they discontinued it. So PlayStation 2 has the stigma of running one of my favorite companies into the ground. But hey, it's still my favorite system. Both systems, the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox, have very kick-ass games. But I would just have to go with the PlayStation 2. And that's just my opinion. I don't know what you guys think, but list what you think in the comment section down below so as to generate a little bit of discussion. So with that, I would choose the PlayStation 2, but then again, going into this, if you've seen any of my videos on the subject, you'd probably already know that. So what do you guys think? Post in the comment section down below. There were a lot of cool things about the original Xbox and the PlayStation 2. This is Midnight Strike 3625. Keep calm and rock on.